Hi everyone, Emily here from Emily's Visions. Just recording another thing about my tribunal, which I won. So I'm just wanted to talk about the process of that, my thoughts and feelings about it and stuff. This is later than I wanted it to be because straight after my tribunal a period came, so that knocked me for six. And so I'm just about recovered now, so able to do a video. So just a summary for people who haven't seen the other videos, or also just to catch up. I was on Disability Living Allowance, DLA, for about 11 years. PIP came along. It's a story that a lot of people are familiar with. I applied for the new benefit. I have a traumatic brain injury, which results in frequent epileptic seizures. And so I heard that people were being knocked off, but I sort of hoped that because my disability is a permanent one, that I would still receive the sort of support that I need to continue to, live a reasonably happy life, and have money that I can apply as coping mechanisms for dealing with my frequent seizures. So. But I was knocked off. I was given, from having a certain amount of points on Disability Living Allowance, I was knocked off. I was given 0 points on PIP, which was ridiculous after receiving it for 11 years. So that was, although I'd heard of these things, it was still personally shocking for me when I found that out. So I appealed. We waited. The fact I had 0 points was, I found out that at the beginning of last year. So then I appealed, and the result was, after a good few months waiting, that they called me up at 9:15 in the morning before I was really awake and sort of gave me an offer, which on reflection afterwards I realised they gave me the offer because they realised they didn't really have a case. So they offered me less than I got on DLA, and they told me that I wouldn't, if I accepted, then that would be the end of the matter. And so I could either say yes or no on the phone right there and then, which was not pleasant, kind or fair either, because they gave me the impression that I wouldn't be able to appeal again, which of course you can appeal over and over and over again. It's your right to appeal against the decisions that they make. So I accepted on the phone call. I'm pleased that I accepted, because that meant that actually I was getting at least a little bit of a dribble of benefit back, which obviously was helpful, but it wasn't the full amount that I used to get. So I appealed again, and I had to wait they said that I could have a tribunal at court. I had to wait 6 months for the date of that, and last week I had the tribunal, and they agreed to my appeal, and gave me basically the same amount that I was on DLA, which has been that's been a whole year of waiting to hear about my status. Anyhow, 3 minutes already. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about that. I was worried that the accepting would count against me. It didn't count against me. So just for the record, that feeling that they gave me, that it was an all or nothing deal, like you might see on some thing on the TV quiz show. It wasn't that. That wasn't the case. The time is fluid, situations are fluid, and you can always appeal. And so I'm pleased that I agreed to that, so I had the money that time. Anyway, so the time in court was about, I think we were there about, in the actual courtroom, was about for an hour and a half. It was extremely scary, but it wasn't such a large courtroom as I've been in before, because this is I think my third tribunal. I've been to quite a few, proving over and over again that I have a permanent disability that, funnily enough, has not got better, and also that I want to have support for that I'm owed, and that's not selfish or greedy of me. So yeah, in the hour and a half, it was very scary. They asked me a lot of questions. Again, questions I've been asked before. With hindsight, you obviously you know what decision they're going to make. They're going to make. You look back and go, they were going to make that decision. At the time, it was very scary, very emotional. Me and my partner both cried. My partner explained, I recommend going with somebody who understands you, particularly if it's a disability like mine, which is related to the brain and therefore comprehension. One thing he was able to explain to them, for example, is that it takes energy, especially in a stressful situation, it takes me extra energy to push through the fact that I have a brain injury and communicate clearly, and often that makes me sound like I'm angry or extra tense. If I had a working brain, I'd be probably ramping up to attacking somebody. Maybe, I don't know, but so it was good having my partner there, because he was able to explain that actually the extra tension that they were experiencing and getting from me was because I was actually struggling with my disability, not because I had a problem with them particularly. I wanted to make a point that from my experience, that I think it's really important to recognise that the people on the tribunal, although they're neutral, and they may be experts, but it's unlikely that they've had the lived experience of your disability. They don't, so it's hard for them to comprehend my disability, and I realised that from talking to them during the tribunal. Like, for example, one of the things they said was, they asked me if my husband ever needs to help me to tie my shoelaces. Now, if I'm in a bad state, I don't go out. So, I don't need help tying my shoelaces, because, I'm not tying my shoes. My shoes don't need to be tied. So I really got the feeling that they didn't really understand, how isolating and debilitating, having a disability is. When you live with one day in, day out, there's things you just can't do, and they're not always obvious, I don't know, they're not always obvious, but you just have to adjust to everything. So that was hard, and that led me to say, look, I don't think you understand really what I'm dealing with here. 2/3 of my time I'm either having epileptic symptoms, or recovering from them, and so. This isn't just something. This isn't just, because I think they were very focused on the fact that, little seizures happen every now and again. Like stubbing your toe, and then you get over it. And I really needed to get across. When you have a chronic disability, just how much that actually affects one's life. Because again, they may be experts, but they haven't got the lived experience of being a disabled person. And that's not their fault either. The other thing I wanted to point out that I found complicated, as again from a comprehension perspective, so I was very stressed, and I've got a damaged brain. I'm trying to understand what's going on in the court, and it's just and it's scary. They said that they were like separate people. So, for example, it was very interesting in the other tribunals I've been to. The DWP, the Department of Work and Pensions, sent somebody to argue against me. They didn't do that this time. There was no other person in the room. It was just me and the court. So that was interesting that they didn't send anyone, and indicates to me, now I think about it, that maybe they are aware again that they didn't have a case. Apparently 75% of people of these appeals are actually getting people back the benefit that they're owed. having said that, you know, we're talking about people who have very stressful lives. You know, they may not have support, like especially if your benefit is cut, if you don't have a friendly relative, where are your carers? Who are you going to pay to accompany you and help you to communicate? You know, so and there will be a small amount of people who shouldn't have had the benefit anyway, for sure. But a lot of people who should have be appealing, should be able to appeal, or should have just been given the benefit, and then they probably can't get themselves round to appealing because they can't face it. Oh dear, it's my phone. It's no good. There we go. So yes. So where was I? Yes. So so there was just me in the court, and I think probably they felt the antagonism a little bit there because, of course, I was arguing my stance. Now, I did feel that they kept telling me, "Oh, we're separate. We're not part of the the DWP." Now, I understand why they were saying that. I think they were saying that because they thought I was getting all passionate and upset, and they wanted me to calm down, not feel like it's an us and them kind of vibe. But I must say that was confusing for me because I had to keep my energy up in order to keep fighting for my benefit and to make clear points. And so I get that they wanted me to be calm, but it's a feisty situation, and I found it hard to kind of push through and make sense. So telling me to calm down or telling me that they weren't at fault, it wasn't particularly helpful. It kind of could have thrown me off the scent. So and made me think, oh, maybe I'm wrong to argue my corner, which of course I'm not. So that was just a comprehension thing. But I did actually raise my voice. At one point, they came at me with a fresh question so that we didn't get lost and confused. And I was in the middle of saying something, and I did say, "Look, let me finish," and they did. So, and then they awarded me. So that's interesting. I didn't get penalised for being assertive, basically, because you worry about that too, I think. So yeah, I got the award. I have to say that after they'd granted me the award, the body language of the three people on the tribunal was different. So it was obvious to me that they were stuck in this job. They're having to do it with a lot of people. They probably don't agree with them, with all of this, with how many people are being knocked off benefits. I can imagine it was quite a sort of tiring and frustrating job to have to do. And their body language was different after they'd awarded it to me. So I think there was a lot of relief, not just on my side, but on theirs too. So that's worth mentioning, I think. I've got a list. Yeah, and I did say, I made a point, because I've been given the award, which will last a few years, but unfortunately my disability won't last a few years. So obviously at the end of the benefit, I'll have to reapply, and I may have to go to another tribunal all over again. And I did say, I just wanted to say to them, that's ridiculous. I'm treated like worse than a criminal. If somebody stole something, they would go to court for it once. They'd decide whether they were, guilty, or innocent, and they wouldn't have to keep on going back to court to prove the situation over and over again. So it just made me feel like I'm being treated like some sort of a criminal, having to go to court over and over again. And it is exhausting and nerve-wracking, and it stops me from being good at other things that I want to do, like being a mum, or being creative, or smiling at people in my community. Little things that make a difference to people. I haven't been able to do because I've been being dragged through the courts instead. So I just wanted to say, well, afterwards I was like, oh, that's great, and I got this feeling that it's like, oh, you can celebrate now because you've got it. But I just wanted to make the point as well, we're not talking about much money here. This is not it's not get rich quick scheme. You know, I'm be able to use it to get out of debt, and also, you know, compensate for when I can't eat, when I can't cook food because of my seizures and stuff like that. So, you know, I did feel it was a bit like, they're not, these people aren't disabled. They don't understand, you know, the difficulty that it comes with. Yeah, that was obvious in like, yeah, you've won your money, you know, how exciting. But it's like, okay. So, yeah, I just, it mainly the benefit is the validation. To be told that you're not disabled when you are, it just makes you feel crazy. It's not helpful and it's not kind. And so to have the validation that I have the benefit is really good. And I'm just telling this story for solidarity and things. Now I can get back to other things I prefer to do and not spend all my time fighting for my rights. Maybe I can help a few people fight for theirs. So yes, so there we go. That's the end of this cycle of story, and I can make some different videos from now on. I hope this was helpful. Again, my story isn't unusual. It's just, I'm just sharing, you know, for solidarity. And if you want to follow me as an epileptic in my journey and in my visioning, then feel free to subscribe to me, and you know, do comment as well. That's fine. I'm sometimes slow at responding because of my brain ability up and down, but yeah, I'm happy to respond and just hear from other people who've had similar or different experiences. I think sharing really helps. So yeah, thank you. Bye.